Hey, how's it going? Hope you're well and all is good. I'm back with another guitar practice vlog. More motivational hints and tips from your guitar guru. I'm not a guru. I am a guide. I'm guiding guys to better guitar practice and ultimately towards playing the way that they want to finally. Um, so, talked before about motivation. So, if you haven't watched that vlog on motivation and you feel so inclined, then I'll bung it up and on the screen and you can check that out. But I want to talk a little bit today about getting fired up and inspired. So again, this is kind of like another way um, to get motivated, I suppose. And it's verging on nostalgic for a lot of us now. Do you remember not only your first guitar, but do you remember the feeling that you had when you first held that guitar in your hand and the excitement or the emotion that you felt when you had that guitar? So I'm going to bore you now with a story from the 1800s when I was very young. So it wasn't 1800s, but back in the mid 90s, let's call it early 90s, more like. My dad, we were having a family barbecue one summer, and my dad disappeared for um, for an hour or so, and came back, and he bought me this secondhand classical guitar, like a used classical guitar, and I think it only had 5 strings on it as well, uh, and it wasn't the prettiest guitar. More than that, it was the hardest instrument, the hardest guitar I've ever played, because the action was so high you could drive a bus underneath it. It was ridiculous. So yeah, much like the action on this guitar, my excitement level was very high. It was through the roof. Um, and yeah, it wasn't much. It wasn't an electric guitar. It wasn't the Les Paul or the Strat or the pointy BC Rich or whatever it was I wanted at the time. It wasn't that, but it was a guitar, and I just remember that feeling. I remember that emotion kind of swelling up inside me. Either that or it was my dad's dodgy barbecue food. I'm not sure, but anyway, I had this visceral kind of reaction. I remember just I've got goosebumps thinking about it. But like standing there in the garden and just being like, "Wow!" Like a kid at Christmas. I got this guitar, and I immediately thought about what songs am I going to learn to play first. So will it be Iron Maiden? Will it be Metallica? Will it Guns N' Roses? All this kind of like 90s, 80s, and 90s metal rock stuff. But anyway, that day for me, that summer in like '93 or whenever it was, that was like the start of a relationship that now has lasted for like over 30 years. Um, and that excitement and that passion, if you like, that almost romantic feeling you have, that does wear off over time, obviously. um, so yeah, that's not to say anything bad about marriage or anything like that, or but naturally our excitement and our passion dwindles from time to time, and that's completely natural and normal. That's not a judgment at all. That is just a fact. Like it can't be maintained forever. But I think that fire can be rekindled. I think that um, your passion for guitar can come back, but what happens is obviously, as we all get older, you have a career, you might have a family, and you find that your free time is rapidly shrinking. Um, or perhaps it's deeper than that. Perhaps it's like, self confidence, self belief that goes, and it's the faith in the ability, the confidence. And I jokingly say this, but it is serious as well. Like I spend a lot of time teaching guitar, but I spend more time teaching the person, if that makes sense. So I pride myself on the fact that I'm not just sort of teaching guitar concepts or technique. I'm coaching people, and I'm helping them with their self confidence. And I spend more time convincing people that they can do the thing rather than teaching the thing. Um, so the worst case is when people give up on their goals and they just decide to like not play anymore, and that's it. They've quit. That's unfortunate, but that does happen. But for others, it's like they still got that desire, but they don't know what to go. They've got no direction, no clearly sort of defined goals for their playing or their practice. Certainly, they don't have an effective structure. They don't have the right method. Um, or in a lot of people's cases, and I could put myself in this category, I got so fixated, I would say probably 14 years ago, 13, 14 years ago, I got so obsessed with technique that it just killed my passion for music. It just killed my passion for wanting to play guitar, and it was good in some ways because I was becoming technically better, like more proficient on my instrument, but like I just had no creativity. I had no sort of real motivation to write songs and play music, and it was just became all about technique and exercises and stuff, which is that just killed it for me. Anyway, personal aside, let's go back to the guardrails so I can stay on track. Um, so let's just ask you that question: like, why did you start playing guitar? Was it because you wanted to feel like a rock star? Was it because you wanted to impress a member of the opposite sex or the same sex or whatever you're into? Um, was it like a a release? Was it like a way of venting? Was it a way of kind of expressing yourself? Was it a way of escaping the real life? Um, Whatever that why was, I think, well, I know that reconnecting to that is super powerful, and reminiscing about these kind of memories and stuff can be super powerful in terms of motivation. So, what is your reason for playing? Like, what is the reason why you picked up a guitar in the first place? And I want you to really tap into that and reconnect musically with what sparked you off on this journey to begin with. So you could create like a playlist, for example. I'm sure you've already done stuff like this, but just soak in that inspiration, just marinate in that music, and just like listen to that stuff over and over again, like your earliest influences. Um, it When I do that, it does transport me back to that time before I had the pointy BC Rich guitars and Ibanez and all this kind of stuff. And it does take me back to that time when I had that crappy, no offense, Dad, that crappy classical guitar that couldn't even press the strings down on it. And I remember trying to play like songs from And Justice for All on it, which is ridiculous. um, but yeah, I just never got there. Like it was unreal until I got an electric guitar, and it all finally kind of made sense. But um, listen to that stuff over and over again, and ditch that pressure that you now feel as an older musician, as an older hobbyist, as an older guitarist, there comes with that this perfectionism that I see in so many guys, and I see it in myself as well. This thing that we need to be at a certain level, and we just stress, or we should be at a certain level. That's the key word, isn't it? Like, I should be better than I am. I've been playing for so long. I should be better than this. I bet you can relate to that one, right? I should be better than this. I should be better than this. But ditch that pressure. That pressure does not help you. That is not going to help you achieve your goals. That is not going to help you get better at your instrument. This, like this self-flagellation and beating yourself up over it is not going to work. Just try to be satisfied if you can. Try to be content with where you're at right now, and just be objective about it and say, like, this is what it is. I'm here at this level now. Um, when you first started playing guitar, what skill level did you think you needed to achieve to be able to play certain songs? Perhaps you were like me and you didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. So again, I go back to that example of like trying to play songs from And Justice for All on a classical guitar. um, Insane. But I didn't know any better. I didn't know any better. I didn't know that And Justice for All was Metallica's like most technical album. I just didn't know at the time. I just knew that I loved those songs. I knew that I loved Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden, Metallica. Guns N' Roses and Metallica were the biggest ones for me. And I thought, if I can play those songs, I will be happy for the rest of my life. But guess what? Once I could do some of those songs and I'd accomplished that thing and I'd set that goal and I'd achieved it, I was then like, oh, what next? So I quickly set myself these other targets. And then, you know what? I felt like a beginner all over again. I tried to play like Joe Satriani or Dream Theater songs, or Paul Gilbert songs, Racer X songs. And I couldn't play them. But what I did was I did not appreciate how far I'd come in a very short space of time on my guitar journey. That's probably a subject for another video. But I got to a level on my instrument very quickly, but and it wasn't enough. It was like, oh, I've got to try. I've got to be more. I've got to be more than this, and that was a mistake. And I really didn't take the time to celebrate those wins and celebrate the fact that I had achieved something like that in a very short space of time. Um, Fortunately, and I say this um, as an older guy, not trying to sound too old fashioned, but there wasn't the comparison back then in terms of the internet. Like, there wasn't Instagram, there wasn't YouTube, and there was none of that in the sort of early '90s. When I started playing, you couldn't really compare yourself as much to other people, um, and I think it was a good thing for someone with my personality type, because I think I would have become quickly disillusioned, looking at other players, especially younger guys who were better than me playing. You've got to remember that the journey is yours alone. It really is. It's you're where you're at in this journey now, and don't compare yourself. Comparison is the thief of joy, and all that, which is um, an important saying, I think, and it's a good mindset shift to have, that you shouldn't compare yourself to other people. A bit of friendly competition and a little bit of uh, motivation in terms of like being accountable to someone, like other players or like a community or group, or even your own teacher as well, is good. But don't compare yourself. You're on this is your journey on guitar. Um, so yeah, like go back to when you very first started playing. When you were a teenager or a young dude, or perhaps you started late teens, early 20s, whenever it was. But go back to that time in life when life was probably a lot simpler and straightforward at that point, before real life stuff got in the way. Transport yourself back to that time today by listening to your old influences, stick on some old tunes, make a playlist of them, just soak and marinate it in that inspiration, and let me know how you get on with that, and if that motivates you or inspires you, fires you up to practice guitar today. Take care and speak to you soon.